So this episode is releasing on Thanksgiving Day, that joyous holiday where we Americans travel great lengths to sit among our kin and give thanks for all of our blessings, including, nay, especially the families with whom we've reunited. Well, I'm here to tell you, dear listener, that the institution of family is a human scourge from which there is no respite. Family is a scar, a great plague that we inherit the day we suck in our first wailing breath of earth. There's perhaps no better tale I could use to illustrate this happy Thanksgiving notion than the one told in As I Lay Dying, the William Faulkner novel and the subsequent 2013 film adaptation starring and directed by James Franco. The story chronicles a handful of days in the life of the Bungerins, a southern backwoods hayseed family in the 1920s. The matriarch of the family's last request was that she be buried beside her father, and so it is with her dying exhortation that Addie Bungerin places upon her husband, 4 sons, and only daughter the nearly unbearable burden of carting her dead, rotting carcass across a seemingly infinite expanse of southern rural landscape to Jefferson. Plagued by one external calamity after another, along with their own willful ignorance every step of the way, the Bungerins' journey is more harrowing, I kid you not, than a visit to the New Jersey Department of Motor Vehicles. The dirt poor but prideful Bungerins are faced with the judgments of their community, a tempestuous river with no bridge to cross it, broken limbs, financial catastrophe, hunger, ludicrous abortion attempts, rape, or is it prostitution, the loss of objects of passion, circling buzzards, the rotting, stinking corpse, of course, and the infernal fire which may or may not have been arson, to name just a few. Faulkner's original tale is one of the greatest works of literature of the 20th century. In it, he uses multi-character first-person narrative, a groundbreaking formal experiment at the time of the work's publication in 1930. Told from the subjective perspectives of the members of the Bungerin family and a few characters with whom they come in contact, we're presented with a composite of the truth, with fragments of skewed and dubious observations that we must patch together in order to get some semblance of understanding of the Bungerins and their travails. The resulting work is a living, breathing family portrait, broader, almost infinite in scope for its brazen narrative experimentation. The film version is another matter, however, and it's an admittedly difficult work for me to assess here. Perhaps it's the most difficult film I've been tasked to assess thus far on the show. The difficulties I'm having with it reside in something my co-host William has recently been grappling with, the nuances of critical context. To be sure, the value placed upon Franco's film is wholly reliant on the context within which you, the viewer, approach the film. I suppose it might be argued that even though Franco's film is a literary adaptation, every film, including adaptations, should be assessed singularly, in and of itself, within the context solely of the world its tale inhabits. As such, the film is an interesting, sometimes powerful, though deeply flawed work that fails often to hit its intended resonant emotional chord, mostly due to its seemingly inability to get out of its own way. Franco employs myriad cinematic tricks, gimmicks, and gadgetry to convey the tale. We have split screen and voiceover that seem arbitrary. We have dialogue intentionally out of sync with the footage being shown. We have characters addressing the camera directly. And because of all that, we have character motives so obfuscated that they're almost invisible. In and of itself, the film is messy and probably incoherent, but it is also fleetingly beautiful and pretty much brilliantly acted start to finish. But I can't assess the film in this context because I have read the novel and stand in humble awe of it. In the context of literary adaptation from a purist perspective, however, the film fares not much better. If ever a literary work was doomed to fail as a cinematic incarnation, it is As I Lay Dying. The original work's tale is inseparable from the formal construction of its narrative. The multi-character first person is unique to the written form. At the time, it was unique to Faulkner. Now, unless it resides entirely within the confines of the mind, an image always has a certain emphasis on the objective. It's my claim that cinema can never approach a novel's subjectivity, and since the written form of As I Lay Dying is the quintessential masterwork of subjective writing, Franco could never succeed in this purist context. He can only disappoint the devotees of the original work. He can only fail. In a third context in which we can place this film, that of Hollywood's celebrity vehicle, the film fell still more miserably. Those looking for a familiar tale with a familiar star will be confounded by what Franco presents to them. This is not Seth Rogen's Pal, or The Wizard of Oz, or the guy you saw online on the magazine and the supermarket checkout line. This is, gasp, a goddamn art film, and so it is therefore a complete, utter, and dismal failure within this context. I'm fairly certain there are plenty of Celebu fans utterly bewildered by this picture. So 3 contexts and 3 strikes, but let's not call this film out just yet. From out of the ruin of these failures emerges the film's virtues, merit, and integrity. If we see Franco's film not as a celebrity vehicle, but as an anti-celebrity vehicle, if we see it not as a pure Faulkner adaptation, but a spirit of Faulkner adaptation, the film might have a chance. In this context, we realize that for Franco to take on such a monolithic, much revered literary masterpiece, to defy his fan base in so doing, to refuse the directives of his own celebrity, takes incredible courage. Fuck that. It takes great big giant balls. Franco is an actor who isn't afraid to take risks. He doesn't take himself too seriously, and so in between his megaplex popcorn makers, he works with the likes of Harmony Korine on weird anti-Hollywood indictments. He allows himself to be painted in gold flakes in the nude for esoteric performance art. He acts in goddamn soap operas, for Christ's sake. And for him to willfully screw with Faulkner's work, to experiment with it knowing full well that his transgressions would draw the ire of every Faulkner academic in every dusty classroom, means to me not that he doesn't respect the original work, rather it means that he respects it all the more, and that he fully understands the spirit of it. For part of that spirit is in the formal experimentation. And with this film, Franco seeks to find the churning emotion of the story, the molten lava gravity that pulls and tugs the Bungeons. But he attempts to find that spirit not by a foolhardy attempt at literal one-to-one didactic translation of the novel's formal experimentations, but by attempting to find its power by using the formal experimentations unique to cinema. Did he fall short? Certainly. But any day of any week of any year, I would much rather see a film that reaches for greatness and stumbles and maybe falls on its face than to suffer through a film that achieves corporate art mediocrity with resounding success. Mr. Franco, in this context, has made a beautiful failure, or perhaps a doomed success, and he should be praised mightily for it. What's more, his cinematic attempts to capture the essence of the tale actually clarified some things about the original work for me, like bones raising from the sand in an archaeological dig. The skeletons of the Bungeons declared themselves more visibly, and I walked away with a deeper understanding that their tale is about the obscenity of family, that it is about how the petty small-mindedness, infantile vindictiveness of parents who insist that their body be dragged across a sweltering county, parents who will put their children through hell for their own vanity, how such monstrous parents afflict their children, and how those children are doomed from birth to cope with their afflictions, like guilt-ridden survivors of a plane crash, and that the coping inevitably leaves them cackling mad or physically maimed, or, worst of all, as petty, selfish, and vindictive as their parents before them. Like the tragic Bungeon kids, nor do we ask for the monstrosities we've inherited. We do not ask for the family we are fated to. There was no choice involved, but we are somehow conditioned to believe that we must accept our families and love them despite of, or perhaps because of, the monstrosities they possess, no matter how obscene or disgusting, or how determined they are to bequeath their monstrosities to us. We are bound to scoundrels and make of them gods because of the illusion they paint into our eyes the day we are born, as if we are their possessions and at their disposal. We accept these monsters, we love them, we become them. It's madness, absurdity and madness. And to be sure, there is one such monstrosity currently tearing at the flesh of my own family. It is a monstrosity born of selfishness, and selfishness bequeathed, and today, I will, as sure as the slaughtering of a turkey, drive my ass across this state to sit down with it, to look it in the eye, and to pretend to accept it. Why? Masochism, blind habit, insanity? What the hell is wrong with me? Today, dear listener, as you sit down to stuff your face, I defy you, too, to look around at they who sit across from you and ask yourself, who are you? And why? The answer, as far as I could tell, is that family is a malignance we cannot cure because it is attached to our arteries below the surface of skin, and so we cannot even see the disease in its totality, let alone possess the ability to isolate it for treatment or cut it out with a blade. The family scourge is seamlessly sewn into our blood. Happy Thanksgiving, you fuckers.
By the way, Joe basically just reworded my vacation review.
You're gonna have to rewrite that, Tom.
Which is really interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I hope we have time between segments. Joe, let's talk about James Franco, because that's what you spent your first half of your review talking about. And I kind of find it interesting that you mentioned his celebrity, and you could approach this film as most people, most people would, as James Franco fans. I mean, I'm sure more than William Faulkner, or even just plain cinema fans. And you kind of say that he's probably irritating his normal viewers, right? I mean,
Maybe. I mean, I'm certain that there's fans out there like us who appreciate what he's doing with all his shenanigans.
No, listen, let me say this. I do appreciate what he did here. I really do. But I don't like it. It didn't captivate me in any way. I don't understand. I couldn't really understand why he's using the split screen, or why dialogue is out of sync, or in the split screen, there'd be times where a character would be talking, and the person that they're talking to is either 3 seconds behind, 5 seconds ahead, and you want to define it as experimental, whatever. I just couldn't, again, it gets to that point of self-indulgency again, Joe.
Yeah, I kind of know what you're saying, man. And listen, I know. Look, in the end, I kind of know what he's going for here, and I kind of address it a bit in the review there. In that, what part of what makes Faulkner's novel so great is its experimentation with the form of the novel, right? And so what he's doing is just experimenting with the form of cinema. And basically what it is, it becomes almost like an abstraction where it pulls apart the story and you have to kind of put together the pieces. And so he's thinking probably, and look, I'm not in his head, he's probably thinking that, you pull apart the pieces of cinema the way that Faulkner pulled apart, but there's not, of course it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, and where Faulkner's book worked brilliantly, it doesn't quite work here. But that said, I do commend him on trying to do
making something different.
Yeah, and it doesn't work. Like it doesn't.
I don't
it
think
doesn't.
it does.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I personally,
it doesn't fulfill.
And I'm sure there are people out there that probably, they might dig it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
Although I think most of them would probably live in Brooklyn.
Well, I don't know what Billy's thinking about.
No, Billy, and I know you live in Brooklyn, but I'm not including you in that Brooklyn mindset.
Well, there's people who really love the novel, and I think that just to watch it, if you're open-minded, you probably have a different experience. Sure. I know the novel. Have you read it?
No, and I've not read Faulkner really. What's the other major work he did? The Sound and the
Sound and the Fury.
Yeah.
I've Light in August is
I haven't been there, and I'm sure the both of you have, Billy. I'm assuming that you have.
I have read a bunch of his shorter stuff, and then this is the first novel of his I've read. So yeah, and I will say that a bunch of the actors in this movie looked like Williamsburg hipsters. There's no doubt about that.
Like Danny McBride.
That's fine. Jewel
was. I thought that was one of the Abbott brothers in his screen debut.
Oh man, it's great though to see a guy like Danny McBride take part in a film like this. To be honest with you, and to
it's a pretty funny circle of friends and collaborators those guys have going on there. I mean, sure. It's like one step removed from Seth Rogen being an extra in this movie.
Right. Or Jonah Hill.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Jonah Hill might have been able to fit into this, I think. As like somebody standing on a porch in the town.
He did pretty good in Django Unchained, I thought.
Yeah. And
that's right.
He kind of listen, and I don't want to get off topic here, but we just mentioned Jonah Hill. I just saw the trailer for The Wolf of Wall Street, the new Martin Scorsese movie, and Jonah Hill's character. Like, dude, this kid, I'm telling you, man, he seems like he might be on to something special. In this,
I like Jonah Hill. Have you seen Moneyball?
Yeah, Billy, come on, have I seen Moneyball?
Great in Moneyball. I was like, this kid.
Now that's a book I've read and seen the movie.
Well, you should have picked that one instead of gangster movies last time. So.
But yeah, he is. He's awesome in Moneyball. Speaking of awesomeness, and Joe, you did mention that there are countless intense performances. Tim Blake Nelson is out of this world.
Amazing, man.
I had to, I put the subtitles on for this screening, Joe.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
He's almost in
okay.
Yeah, he's almost impossible to understand.
Yeah, and right away, like after 5 minutes, I'm like, I got to do it, and I figured it was a smart move anyway because after watching it for 5 minutes, the film did seem poetic, so I really wanted to take in as much of the written word I could, because it seemed like it was necessary. But
all that dialogue is pretty much verbatim from the book, as I remember, right, Joe? I think.
Pretty much, yeah. It seemed like it. I scanned the book again before this viewing, but yeah, it's like Daryl's voiceover. I know his chapters in the book are just friggin' like some of the most beautiful stuff I've ever read. Some of those bits that he writes in there.
Yeah,
the Daryl character was definitely a cipher for Faulkner himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was. Joe and I were talking about this a little bit over the course of the week, and there's times when a author takes a character's voice or a narrator's voice and pretty much just takes over, and it's their own stream of consciousness, and that's definitely what he was doing in those passages. So, and a lot of that shows up right in the middle of the film, which I'm sure as as Franco wanting to do a little bit of a star turn, even on a small scale, must have been really enticing, because he gets to deliver a bunch of that poetic dialogue.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what he's. I think he's ready to direct The Sound and the Fury next. Actually,
it's already good for him
in production. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Well, he has a movie I noticed on demand right now about the last couple days of the life of Sal Mineo. Yeah. That he directed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's all over the place. It's great, man.
Actually, that Sal movie is from 2011, but yeah.
Oh, it was 2011.
Yeah, it's been around a while.
Wow. So that might have been the first film that he directed, then, the Sal Mineo movie.
I believe it is. Yeah. And this guy's insane. I would just love to have a cup of coffee with him and just talk about what his workday is like. It's got to be insane
because he does. Not just the acting and the directing. Obviously, he's writing and he does. He paints as well. Is this true? I think
he does everything.
I'm sure. Yeah, he just has his hands in everything. He led the league in RBIs last year. I didn't even know that.
I think that the strongest part is the acting, and it's always great to see actors who are directing other actors, because even though where it'll fall short, it's just. There's something that an actor / director brings to a film that is just you don't actually get a lot of times with other directors.
Yeah.
Like I was just watching that John Cassavetes movie Minnie and Moskowitz, and it reminded me a lot of the same thing, where there's a lot of freedom and like all the attention is going to the performance, and just what's happening here with all of these characters straight on through is just. It's the one shining spot of the film,
Absolutely.
and you kind of wish that he got out of the way and then directed it more simply, right. And it probably would have resonated a bit more.
Right.
I think that it's really difficult to separate the movie. I mean, it's impossible to separate the book from the movie if you've read the book. So it really is there's almost no sense trying to translate that directly to the screen,
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically probably the only form that it would translate well into would be an audio performance where you get actors to just read the book, and I mean, the audio book, if you had that same cast of actors just reading the book, would be a masterpiece of radio performance or something.
That's pretty true.
Yeah.
You know what? Because you've read this book. You were just reading the book, right?
I just finished it like 2 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it was so hard to write this, Tom, because it's so hard to see the film. Like it's like I can't even see the film, It's like I'm seeing straight through to the novel. So probably the most interesting perspective would be Tom's, as somebody who hasn't read the book.
Well, and I was trying to separate. I was like thinking to myself, about 20 minutes into the movie, okay, forget you've read the book. If you just came upon this movie out of nowhere, what would you think? And it would still be a tough, it'd still be a tough watch, but
extremely tough. For me, I mean, to be honest with you, for the second show in a row, I had to, like Gomorrah, I had to stop. Like I had to stop watching the movie, like after like 20, 25 minutes. And this is because that was mainly because I put it on at the wrong time. I put it on late, and I had worked all day, and I had to go to work the next day, and I stopped it. Then, I put it back on my day off, the day after, and I still had to go through it twice more during that afternoon. So
this one or Gomorrah? This
one.
Yeah,
this one.
Yeah. So it's hard to even pick up on some of the things that I was talking about from the movie. I bet, right? Like just the vindictiveness of the parents, and it's almost. I would imagine it's almost bewildering to watch this.
I kind of it is hard. I kind of felt it. I kind of just like, I don't know, like it was like, to me it was like complete madness. Like,
right.
Like why, and it was what's the Blake Nelson character's name? Ants. Yeah, and his just here's the thing that I thought of. How can I put this intelligently? It was like, I felt that it was like a story written by someone really intelligent about really stupid people. And I was trying to figure out why somebody would do that. So I can't figure that out watching this movie. Obviously, I would need to read the book to put my finger on that, because I don't understand why someone could write a story like this that's obviously highly intelligent, that writes it so poetically and so beautifully. Now, and I'm watching these dumbasses do something so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
And yet it's intriguing to a lot of people and brilliant to a lot of people.
Well, and that's one of the things that it's difficult to figure out, is why they're doing those things. And in the book, it kind of, it's difficult. It's a dense book too. It's difficult to sort of put together the jigsaw pieces of the puzzle, right. But you eventually can, and you realize how much.
Well, Ants is guided by willful. The Lord. I mean, that's, to me. And
I think Ants is guided by
Ants
has laziness and selfishness.
Yeah.
And he uses, in the book, Tom, he uses the Lord as an excuse for his manipulating other people, so his laziness can get, like, it's really nuanced.
Every time, it's great in the book, because every time he needs a favor from someone or he needs a bailout, he uses the word Christian. So it's like, well, if there's any Christian folk around here, I'm sure they'll help. And it's always like, you just know he's looking for a handout, basically.
Faulkner write this novel, Joe?
The ends of 1920s, I guess. I think it was published in 1930. So, yeah, I mean, and that's the stuff that doesn't come across with this, because you don't know that they're like a prideful, willful people, and they're actually like, they're hayseeds, but they're not dumb, like Ants is manipulative, even though, so he seems really dumb, but he's actually like conspiring or whatever a lot of the time, he's angling and stuff. Right. And Cash is actually really smart.
Cash is like an artist. Like he's a master craftsman. You know, they talk in the book more about his different projects that he's done in carpentry around the county, you know, and like what a beautiful artist he is actually. So
yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that doesn't translate, and that's why I'm interested in hearing like how it is working or how it's not working. You know what I mean?
A bunch of dumbasses take a coffin on a wagon. I think that's Tom's review.
Oh, stop, Billy! Don't make
teasing you, man, but the cutting room prejudice against rednecks is well documented.
And also, Ann's. I mean, he's going for a new set of teeth, really.
That's it, man. You see, and then,
but even more than that is that has he the woman who shows up at the end is the new Mrs. Bundren.
Oh, beautiful woman.
Is he? Yeah, at least the 9. And
see what a new set of teeth could get somebody.
But the question is,
that's it, man. I mean,
has he been having an affair with this woman already? Right?
Yeah.
So here's like the movie. Actually, one thing that I Joe, you said it kind of like raised the bones from the sand or whatever the phrase was that you used. But there were a bunch of things that I actually enjoyed about the movie. Clarifying for me is I never really got from the book just how many ulterior motives everyone had for going into town, basically, right? Like you kind of figure it out along the way, but in the movie version, you know, he really sort of spells it out that by the end of the movie, you realize most of these people are, you know, they don't even give a shit about the woman in the coffin. And the couple of people that do give a shit about it are the little boy who's ignorant of all the things going on around him, or Jewel and Darl, who are alternately angered and amused by, you know, the hypocrisy of their family.
Yeah, because they see it.
Yeah, and it's definitely more spelled out in the movie, which was nice for me, you know, because it's almost like, you know, it's a little bit the Cliff's Notes version of the book, but it you know, he does a good job of actually playing that out.
Yeah, Tom. In the book, it's hard to figure out what's going on in the book too. You know, like nobody's saying like this is why I do it. It's just like an internal monologue. So when you're exactly right with that teeth thing that you were talking about and the woman, like it becomes crystallized and like it's maybe 2 lines in the book. Like at the end of the book, like it's like represented by 2 lines.
Really?
But it's really prominent here because we're looking at it.
It says. Like, well, not constantly, but
I know.
But he plants that seed throughout the journey.
Right, I know. And you
know
what?
He makes one of his kids feel guilty about the fact that he had gone so long without his teeth,
right?
And that he had sacrificed so much, and he was, you know, he would have to do so much, and he couldn't even eat a decent meal day after day after day after day. And there was nothing, you know, nothing more than that he wanted than to get his teeth, and that the boy should embrace that and should want that.
Yeah. It's probably in the book too, but think about that. It's probably like 3 or 4 lines in the movie. So like proportionally it's a presence, you know?
Yeah.
But when you're reading the book, it's in a sea of all these other friggin' thoughts that are barely connecting together. You know what I mean?
It seems to me that this guy really had his finger on what the modern American family was becoming. You know, and what Christianity was becoming here in the United States. You know, as he touches upon, like, you know, so many different themes, including abortion and whatnot. Obviously, fidelity. You know, I mean, possibly fidelity, rather. All kinds of other things. So, dude, I have not read the book, but obviously, this is something that was just, you know, he was starting to understand what people were becoming in this country.
Well, abortion was something that he touched on again in The Wild Palms, which is another beautiful book. But I actually think that, you know, again, just watching this movie actually clarified some of the themes for me that were like a little bit vague in the book, or at least, you know, not as prominent. And that was how the family, how like what I was talking about, like the sickness of the family, and what a like it's almost like a disease that all these people are selfish, and this is what they're inheriting is this sickness and this like just think about how vindictive that this woman is, and she says I want to go and I would go into the woods or whatever and sit down so I could hate them. I mean her final wish was one of hate to put these people through this misery, and they're all and all these kids are trying to cope with it, and some of them are becoming those monsters, and some of them right. are becoming deformed by it.
Oh man,
yeah,
rotten, just fucking rotten.
It's just funny that I picked this for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It did occur to me in the course of seeing all these films. I was like, the underlying theme of the family road picture or the family travel picture in any form is basically to torture families and to break them down and to see how awful and
it's
like
true.
The anger and the hatred and everything, right. And you can just basically spin it either way. Like the flip side of As I Lay Dying really is Vacation, because they all they all end up hating each other. Like they all end up hating each other anyway. Yes, but you laugh instead of
movie.
Yeah.
It really
it's
is.
Great.
And the Grapes of Wrath is like we sandwich that here in the middle, and it's not the inner turmoil of the family that's breaking the family down. It's obviously the outside world and what's going on around them, that brings them down. But definitely, As I Lay Dying and Vacation.
They're the same movie. They're practically the same movie.
I think they're the same number of deaths in both. Animal and human.
Yeah. Well, if you look at Aunt Edna's teeth, you might really think that it... And speaking of teeth, Joe, do you think that the reason why Max had decided to either not watch As I Lay Dying...
Are we gonna punish Max here?
Do you think the teeth... the teeth in As I Lay Dying, or the lack of teeth in Tim Blake Nelson?
I think everybody's just go ahead. Tom.
Do you think that he just couldn't sit through that for 90 minutes?
I think he probably looked at the cover and saw like James Franco covered in filth, and just he couldn't even touch the DVD. so he's like, hi Joe, I have very busy things to do today, so I'm not going to be able to go be on for As I Lay Dying.
He is a disappointment for
everyone.
I mean, I totally wanted to hear what he had to say, but obviously that's not going to happen.
Well, Tom, do you think that it's true that he's busy? Because he pulled this with the same thing with All the Pretty Horses, and he did not like that.
And I think he's done it before.
I think he did too.
I can't put my finger on which movie it was. But before All the Pretty Horses,
he's very depressed. He has butts to be spanking, and we shouldn't be really, bothering him about that right now.
Well, we definitely have to call him Princess Max when he gets on again, like we did last time.
Yes,
because he loves it.
Without a doubt. Billy, Joe, anything else about Faulkner, Franco, the film itself, any of the performances? You want to throw anything out there before we move the show?
I said plenty in my review there, and thank you for bearing with me. But I would say, Tom, I think you would like this book, man. It's a powerful friggin' book, man, and a great read. One I would definitely recommend.
You own it, right?
Yeah.
Well, next time I'm up there, I'll snatch it from you.
Okay.
You should have my copy. It actually has Franco on the cover.
That was fun.
Listen,
that way you can be with Dirty Franco every day that you're reading the book, Tom.
How funny is it that book, Billy, has James Franco on the cover?
I resolved that anytime I was on the subway reading it, if someone asked, I was going to say, "Oh, this is As I Lay Dying by James Franco. Have you heard of it?"
Like one of the greatest writers, friggin' like he was the Cormac McCarthy of his day. I would say, I think McCarthy definitely took a lot.
I think if you take Hemingway plus Faulkner, stirred around, and that was the soup that Cormac McCarthy rose from.
Yep, good old fashioned American grit.
Yep.
Max Cook is with us, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, Max.
And the show just came to a bloody standstill. How's it going, fellas?
Princess Max, or does he get reduced now in ranking to Princess Jeffrey now that he keeps doing this?
That would just be. Listen, it's gonna go from Princess Max to Princess Jeffrey, and then the all-time low, DEFCON 1, is just Jeff.
Well, it will be fun doing the show with you, fellas. It will be nice knowing you if it gets to that point.
Max, talk to me about As I Lay Dying.
How have the hijinks been so far?
They have been outstanding.
Who liked it? Who hated it? Joe loved it, right, Tom?
Well, it's not about a matter of hate or love. We're just trying to get to the bottom of, of the piece itself. Max.
Yes.
The argument we had shamed the argument, the Sopranos argument. So we've been yelling and screaming at each other for 30 minutes straight.
Yeah. I already have Billy's already given me a headache, Max.
I've left the show twice already.
What happened to Dave Pace?
He'll be in on the Grapes of Wrath and the Vacation review, Max.
Oh, my God.
Which is coming up shortly. But we wanted to say hello to you real quick and say happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Good evening. It's good to talk to you, fellas. I'm so sorry I missed the first segment. I've been a disaster. Forgive me. But I hope to make it up to you.
I think you're gonna. I mean, you're going to be introducing the Grapes of Wrath in just a few minutes, Max.
Yes, I'm afraid I am.
What?
Oh, God.
What?
Here we go.
Are you kidding me?
What?
You don't sound too positive about it.
Oh, by the way, can I just say,
yes,
this is so hilarious, you guys. So last time the four of us were together, you know when you go on Skype and you can you have like an icon or an avatar or whatever. Well, I was getting feisty and a little bored, so I started to change my avatar to a bunch of women's asses. Okay.
Bored. As he was yelling and screaming at me for a half hour straight, he was bored.
Yeah. You weren't fighting back. It wasn't interesting anymore, Joe.
What do you have to be doing to be entertained, Max? Shooting at somebody?
Seriously. So Tom, I could tell it got a little quiet the past couple of weeks. So we kind of started going back and forth in text a little bit, just, and Tom expressed being a little worried about me. I'm a little worried about you, Max. I don't want you to get in no kind of troubles.
Here we go.
What do you mean, Tom? Well, I just think this new obsession of yours is dangerous, Max. I mean, what if your wife found out? Fellas, after a series of texts until finally I had to call the fucking guy and just talk to him and say, what's going on?
He's fucking with you.
Oh.
He thought I was taking photos of women's naked asses.
Oh.
Behind my wife's back.
Guys, listen, I thought every day when Nicole went to work, Max had these women, that he was either meeting around, his condo or on Craigslist. I don't know. What the fuck?
Craigslist. Because I have the time to deal with creep shows on Craigslist.
Max, every time, let me tell our listeners something. Every time Max says something about what time he has or how little time he has, just go to his Facebook page, please. Just go to that fucker's Facebook page, and you will know he's full of shit.
Got no time. I got about 3 hours worth of posts to put up on Facebook, Tom.
How long does it take to post a picture? How long does it take to post a couple sentences while you're walking through a mall with your wife? Come on.
Oh, that's what you're doing? Oh, by the way, Max, the mall was just not, bad breath was abound.
Oh, it was crazy. Like the more heat and the more bodies that began to pack into the commerce, the more odoriferous it got. And then it got really hot and really funky. And I decided that it was everyone's breath. And Nicole was so sickened. And she totally agreed with me. And we made a mad dash out of there with our Hickory Farms, with the dress that she had tried on and modeled for me for her holiday party.
Are you guys listening to this dude?
Max, when you're watching The Grapes of Wrath, do you just think about how everybody's body odor is?
I could smell Fonda's glaze from here.
Yeah, but Max, what if you were offered a part in a film like that was, about a a bunch of hobos or a bunch of dirty people living in close quarters, and you had to go on that set every day, and you had to be dirty, and you had to smell everybody. You were close together. And they were going to pay you well. Could you take a part like that?
Absolutely, but I got to tell you something. I would discreetly launch with Vicks Vapo Rub, and I would survive.
Okay, listen, we're going to get into the Grapes of Wrath, but John Ford did not allow any perfume or makeup or any kind of stuff like that to keep the real experience as alive as he could on the set. So everyone had to stink.
Wow. Oh.
Now, if the great John Ford, Max, asked you to work in his film and you had to be in close quarters with some of the dirtiest, most disgusting smelling people you have ever come across, would you do it?
Yes, of course I would, but it would be insufferable. And that John Ford, isn't he one of those cigar-chomping, gun-pointing, cowboy hat-wearing director dudes?
Joe.
He'd probably scare the shit out of me.
Is that the type he is, Joe?
He did smoke cigars, from what I understand, from what I see. Yes,
he's a drunken Irish maniac.
Yeah, exactly.
But Max, you're a cigar chomping dude.
No, I can't really chomp many cigars much. Only 2 a year since my brain troubles.
And you've been sticking to that?
Absolutely, it's terrible. I miss cigars so much. I miss chomping on them. I miss shooting guns with a big cigar in my mouth.
Now, Max, do you take the cigar and dip it in, say, like some kind of a brandy or
a rum
or a whiskey? Oh, a rum, like a dark rum?
Oh, yeah.
That's what you enjoy.
Yes.
Wow. Fascinating.
You're giving me a craving here, Tom. Why are you doing that? Why are you getting on top of me?
I don't know. You have a craving for cigars, and every time you come on Skype, I have a craving for a woman's ass.
You
know what I'm saying, dude?
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're barking, dog.